Black women are 2 to 3 times more likely to die during childbirth compared to white women, and this is due to racism and a lack of proper funding of healthcare in predominantly Black communities.
Tonight, the LA Times reporting a California hospital is facing a federal civil rights investigation for the way it treats Black women giving birth there.
My wife would be here with her boys if it wasn't for the color of her skin.
The death of 39-year-old Kira Johnson initiating the scrutiny after her husband filed a civil rights lawsuit against Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. It was later settled. Kira and her husband Charles, already parents to one son, a picture-perfect family, when she died after a scheduled C-section delivery of their second child in 2016.
After allowing my wife to bleed and suffer needlessly, while my family and myself begged and pleaded for them to simply just treat her with dignity and respect.
The case bolstered by this video deposition from Angelique Washington, a former surgical technician at Cedars-Sinai who was in Kira's operating room.
The room started to look like a murder scene, a crime scene. It started blood everywhere. I knew it didn't feel good.
The LA Times reporting on the investigation after reviewing a letter sent to Kira's husband Charles from the Federal Department of Health and Human Services, stating the department is reviewing the allegations. NBC News also obtaining the letter that says in part the HHS Office of Civil Rights, quote, is aware of allegations that Black women are provided a standard of care below what is provided to other women who are not Black when receiving health care services related to labor and delivery.
This is why we get to weed out racism in all parts of society, not just the police force or the justice system, but every single part, because people should not get worse health care just because they have a darker skin tone than somebody else. If you are racist or a bigot, you shouldn't be any medical field, any field of science, or any government position whatsoever. If you are racist, you should not be allowed to have pretty much no part of society.
HHS confirming the investigation to the LA Times. NBC News has not heard back from the department. The CDC says in 2021, the maternal mortality rate for Black women was 69.9 deaths per 100,000 live births. That's 2.6 times the rate for white women.
2.6 times the rate for white women. So for every white woman that dies in childbirth, 3 Black women die during childbirth. And you think, with how much right-wingers claim to care about, babies being born, women and kids, that they would want to, adequately fund hospitals and stuff to, provide better health care and all that. But they don't. They don't care whatsoever, unless they can use it to make it seem like Black people are bad for not having kids.
Has to do with racism in society, racism in healthcare, bias amongst healthcare professionals. So we're seeing a disproportionate number of deaths.
A Cedars-Sinai spokesperson declining to comment on the investigation, but telling NBC News Cedars-Sinai clinicians, leaders, and researchers have long been concerned with national disparities in Black maternal health, and we are proud of the work we've done and continue to do to address these issues.
Racism has long been a cancer within the scientific community. There's a lot of people that try to support their racism with science. That's why you, at one point in time, had the science field of, measuring people's skulls and determining their intelligence because of that. And, that's just pseudoscience based upon racism. Nothing more, nothing less. This is why we can't allow bigots to, be a part of the scientific field, because they will use their bigotry to influence their scientific research.
Kira's husband also filing a lawsuit against her doctor for gross negligence, receiving a $1 million settlement, and filing an additional suit against the hospital that was also settled. Johnson vowing that the pain his family has endured will shed light on the devastating consequences.
Kira's legacy will be that this is no longer allowed to happen anyplace.
And Valerie Castro joins us now in studio. Valerie, the statistics alone should be enough to make us all stop and think about this. But seeing Kira, her family, the life she had, and knowing she is no longer here, that's a gut punch. Were you able to speak with her husband tonight?
Allison, it's a devastating story, but her husband, Charles, says he is happy that this issue is now being taken seriously. He says after he came forward with the story of what happened to Kira and their family, he heard from other families who experienced similar tragedies. He said he hopes this investigation leads to change not only at Cedars-Sinai, but other hospitals and other healthcare systems across the country.